Hey everybody, Jamin here, and I'm about to record a kind of a long, slow video addressing the question, why is it that so few people are knowledgeable about and supportive of marine cloud brightening, which I see as absolutely vital to saving life on Earth in an exponentially overheating planet. And if you want to know more about that, please follow Sam Carana on Twitter, X, just like it sounds, Sam, S-A-M-C, and then Carana, C-A-R-A-N-A. They do great updates. I think it's a team. But anyway, in the face of that, there's literally only one practical solution that I see, and I've been on this topic for decades, ever since I was an undergrad at UC Berkeley and in civil and environmental engineering, and then a grad student at MIT in hydroclimatology. So I know what I'm talking about. And anyway, this might seem like a rambling, meandering video. So if you don't like rambling, meandering kind of stream of consciousness videos, please stop watching and don't get angry at me. Don't give me a thumbs down. Anyway, all right, I'm starting to ramble. So here goes. I got up in the middle of the night last night and started voice dictating. So I'm going to be looking at my notes from that and just kind of chipping away at it. So you've been warned, and I hope you enjoy what follows. And if you're in that frame of mind and spirit. All right. I'm going to divide the world into two sets of people, set A and set B. And set A is defined by those people who understand the absolute necessity of marine cloud brightening at this moment in history in 2024. Set B is everyone else, people who don't understand the absolute necessity of implementing marine cloud brightening. And this is not to take anything away from, people who don't get it, people who are in set B. So please don't take offense. And what I'm not going to do in this video is actually go ahead and make the case for marine cloud brightening. That, Paul Beckwith has done a much better job at that, Stephen Salter, so you can look for those videos on YouTube, and that's not what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is address the question of why so few people are in set A. I mean, we're talking about way less than 0.1% of humanity, way less than that, probably 0.001% or less than that even still, just a minuscule amount. And the point is that the two sets, set A and set B, are simply looking at our planetary crisis as regards global warming from very different lenses, right? And okay, I just paused for a moment to kind of gather my thoughts, which I'll do from time to time. But see, at present, there's kind of a relatively high bar for people to enter set A, the people who get the urgency of marine cloud brightening and the non-substitutability of it. There's nothing that substitutes for it. People in set A really basically have grasped two things. Number one, they have grasped and come to terms with the fact that our planet is overheating. I'm just going to go off on a few tangents from time to time, so bear with me. But because this is a really important topic. I mean, if you're in set A, thank you and God bless you. And this is a very important topic for you. I'm not here trying to get people to move from set B to set A in this video. It's really more like for people in set A to kind of commiserate with me, and for us to begin to grapple with how do we get people to go from set B to set A. If you're in set B, feel free to listen and watch. It may sound like some madman, spewing stuff that you don't agree with, or doesn't make any sense. Whatever, just you, you're a grown up. You can figure out whether to stop watching or keep watching. But to be in set A, it's a pretty high bar. People in set A have come to terms with how fast the planet is overheating. Oh yeah, the tangent I was going to go off in is it is about the heat. It's the heat, stupid. It's not temperature. Temperature is it's related, but temperature is like a really lagging indicator. Heat is the primary thing. Heat is a thing. Temperature is a measure, but heat is a quantity. It's a physical thing, like matter, like money, like it is energy. And our planet is net accumulating heat, or like air in a balloon that, you keep blowing more air into the balloon, eventually it's going to burst. That's kind of where our planet's at right now. We're blowing heat into it. It's contained. It's melting the ice. It's causing droughts and wildfires and forest fires in Canada, the west coast of the United States, and all over the world. Even Greenland caught fire, which it had never done before. So heat is a thing, and we're overheating. We're net accumulating heat. People in set A have come to terms with that. They understand it. They're not like in some denial, like, oh, it's some temperature that fluctuates up and down. No. It's not about that. We are net overheating. Temperature is a lagging indicator of that, per what I call the Guy McPherson Martini effect, which Guy talks about, and we can talk about at some point. But anyway, people in set A have come to terms with that, and people in set A have been exposed to enough of the analysis of all of our options to come to the conclusion that only solar radiation management can save us at this time, at the rate at which we need to be saved. We're practically going Thelma and Louise over the edge of the cliff right now at 100 miles per hour, and it's a long way down. And decarbonization, carbon sequestration, it's simply not enough of a parachute, out of the back trunk of the Thelma and Louise convertible to stop us. Solar radiation management is that parachute, and it's unique. Now, Marine Cloud Brightening happens to be the only form of parachute that we can implement quickly enough and within various constraints, including financial. It's conceivable that we could build, millions of carbon sequestration, facilities all around the world. But it would cost many trillions of dollars, way more resources than humanity even has the capacity to cough up at this time. Marine Cloud Brightening costs essentially zero, $10 billion. That's essentially zero in the grand scheme of things. It's rounding error. It's doesn't even figure in like the US budget or deficit or anything like that. It's just a drop in the bucket. So it's extremely inexpensive. So people in set A get that. They've essentially looked at all the options, and the maximum impact that any individual option can give us in terms of not only stopping the overheating, but reversing it, and have come to the very logical conclusion that marine cloud brightening is the only way that we can cool the planet in time to save our lives and life on Earth generally. And by the way, if in the theoretical possibility that we in subset A, set A of humanity, are mistaken about our conclusions about marine cloud brightening, I pray that some smart person or group within subset B will show us our error. Where have we gone wrong? Okay. So I'm open to that. Please contact me if you if you think we're in error. Now, the flip side of that is that the people in set A are correct, including myself, that marine cloud brightening is an absolute necessity to save life on Earth. No marine cloud brightening, no life, like within a period of years, probably a pretty small number of years, as little as 5 or so. So assuming for the moment that set A is correct, that marine cloud brightening is essential, let's begin to grapple with the kind of amazingly odd circumstance that only a very tiny percentage of humanity, like way less than 0.1%, understand that. I mean, there might be only tens of thousands of us who actually get that marine cloud brightening is absolutely essential. And I think that I'm going to speculate on why that is. That the vast majority of humanity, including politicians, including bankers, including policymakers, including academics, the vast majority of humanity are kind of like sheep. We sort of follow the herd, right? And we're afraid of going way out on a limb on our own and joining this really tiny minority called Set A that, believes that we need marine cloud brightening at planetary scale to save our lives. Given that, it kind of seems like it'll take something like a small miracle or a big miracle to get a significant percentage of humanity, like in the single digits percentage, 5%, 3%, even 1%, to join the ranks of Set A. I'm going to present to you the framework for that miracle. I don't have the miracle in my hands right now, otherwise I'd just give it to you, but I'm going to present the framework for that miracle. But first, let me provide a bit more background. And pretty much everything I'm going to say from here on out will probably only really make sense to people in Set A, but I think there are smart people in Set B, very smart people in Set B. So I hope to reach some of those. But let's take a look at the question: why is Set A so vanishingly small? Let's look at that question from a fresh perspective. And let's first please consider, that there are many parts to the answer to that question. And please consider that it's very, very likely that no one human being understands or even knows what all of those parts are. I'm going to talk about some of those parts, but there's really a lot of parts to the answer to the question why so few of us get that marine cloud brightening is essential to saving life on Earth. One of those parts is the relatively widespread notion among environmentalists and those who engage in serious discussion about global warming, climate change, et cetera, is the notion that geoengineering is bad, period, right? And that we should focus on more, natural solutions, like reducing the burning of fossil fuels and reducing animal agriculture. And those are great things to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for all of that. I think we should eliminate animal agriculture. But they're wrong. Even if we completely stop the burning of all fossil fuels and completely end animal agriculture tonight, do both of those things tonight, the sum total of both of those mega actions is still not going to cool the planet in time. It's not going to even stop or slow down global warming. In fact, it would actually accelerate global warming, but that's a more sophisticated discussion that is beyond the scope of this presentation, this video. But that notion alone that geoengineering is bad and that we've got better solutions, that prevents probably the majority of humanity from even getting anywhere near entering subset A, set A. Another related notion, which is not quite so extreme as to say any form of geoengineering is bad, but another related notion is the notion that even those geoengineering solutions which are worthy of consideration should only be studied at this point in history, March 2024, but should not actually be implemented yet. Why? Because we do not yet understand the risks of implementing geoengineering. That's the notion. Let's call that the risk hypothesis. And there's yet another notion which prevents people from entering the ranks of subset A, and that is the notion that if we were to implement geoengineering solutions of any kind, that would reduce humanity's incentive to, in turn, reduce the burning of fossil fuels. There may be truth to that notion, and I'm not here to debate whether or not that notion is true or false. I'm just saying that's part of the answer to the quagmire as to why is it that set A is such a super tiny sliver of humanity. And by the way, as a side note, there is an unspoken hypothesis supporting that latter notion, which is that beyond the objective of cooling the planet, there is an even more important objective, which is the reduction of burning fossil fuels. In other words, this unspoken, usually unspoken assumption is, but implicit to that notion, is that it's more important to reduce the burning of fossil fuels than it is to actually cool our planet. And I would add to that, I'm going to rephrase that in my own way, that for those people, it's more important that we reduce the burning of fossil fuels than it is that we cool our planet in time to save our lives. In other words, reducing burning fossil fuels is more important than even saving our lives, because we need to cool the planet to save our lives. And we cannot get there from here with just reducing or even eliminating fossil fuel burning. So I would submit that members of set A have, by whatever means, overcome that argument or that idea, however implicit and unspoken, that reducing fossil fuel burning is a more important objective than the objective of cooling the planet. Okay, please also recall my assertion that there's perhaps no single human being who is even aware of the entirety of the set of all parts which constitute the answer to that burning question, why so few of us are in set A, much less has a deep understanding of each of those parts, much less has a coherent thesis as to how the set of all such parts may be overcome, like through dialogue, education, debate, and now objective analysis. So, and now I'm going to really go out there and just make a soccer analogy. I love soccer. Was never very good at it, but I love playing it. That imagine that each such part of the answer as to why so few people have entered set A, that each part of the answer represents a player on the soccer field. And the set of all those parts constitutes like a team. And the objective of that team is to prevent anyone from entering set A, right? They all kind of work together. And, conceptually, there are perhaps, say, 100 such parts to the answer of why set A is so small. One of those parts could be the risk of being ostracized as, being evil or misguided or whatever, I mean, let's face it, we are a social species and no one likes being ostracized by the vast majority of humanity. With 100, say, defenders protecting the goal of entering set A, right? Then, what chances does even a brave Pele have of getting past 100 opponents? And herein, I will reveal a thesis, which I have, which is that a lone Pele basically does not stand a chance, or such a small chance that only a few of us have kind of Pele'd our way past all these 100 defenders and into set A. So each of us in set A represents something like a super Pele who's gotten past all these defenders, and frankly, the misinformation that those parts, those defenders, rely upon. And here's, yet another hypothesis I have, which is just because a given member of set A has achieved super Pele status in terms of being able to get through the goalpost, past all the defenders and through the goalpost on their own, not really on their own, but you know what I'm saying? Just because a single super Pele has gotten, into set A does not necessarily make that individual competent to flip members of subset B into becoming members of set A through their own arguments alone. I mean, the fear of being ostracized is a very powerful motivating fear. And, there are whole communities and movements and organizations that, if they don't outright reject geoengineering and all forms of geoengineering, they take the, slightly less extreme view that, well, geoengineering is risky and fine, maybe we should study it, but we shouldn't actually do it right now. Oh no, that would be too risky, right? And in fact, those dynamics alone would actually deter the super Peles of set A from even attempting to try to flip somebody from set B into set A. That's very significant. And so one of the things that I'm proposing is that, to the extent that you is that those of us in set A form something like a support group of those members of set A who are not content simply being members of set A without doing anything to help the members of set B flip over to become members of set A. Do you see what I mean? That's actually quite significant. So suppose we were successful in forming such a support group, and suppose that a subset of that support group embraces the urgent necessity of flipping members of set B into becoming members of set A. Let's call this the Delta Force subset of set A, right? So there's people in set A, and then there's those of us who are absolutely committed to convincing, a critical mass of the rest of humanity of set B to joining the ranks of set A, not necessarily joining the Delta Force, but just joining the ranks of set A. This Delta Force, I mean, we may number in the hundreds for all I know, or the thousands, not necessarily very many of us. But also consider that the mission of the Delta Force is absolutely crucial. I mean, if not us, then, who, right? And now consider that there is an even tinier subset of the Delta Force itself, which both has a relatively firm grasp of the imperative of Marine Cloud Brightening, but also has a relatively firm grasp of all of the major solutions needed to get us out of the poly crisis. And let's just conceptually say that, beyond that, Marine Cloud Brightening is one of, say, I don't know, 30, mega crucial solutions to getting us out of the poly crisis. Another would be one of the others of the 30 would be eliminating animal agriculture. Another would be free speech and collective human intelligence coming together, which I'm kind of giving a little bit of a plot spoiler here, because I think that's crucial, but I'll get to that in a moment. So where am I going with all this? Where I'm going with all this is there not only needs to be a Delta Force for Marine Cloud Brightening, but there also needs to be a Delta Force for basically going plant-based, eliminating animal agriculture, including, commercial fishing. And another Delta Force for, collective human intelligence, evolving towards collective human superintelligence, aka CHISI, the acronym CHISI, CHSI. And, 27 other Delta Forces for the other 27 of the 30 mega solutions that are essential, crucial solutions for getting us out of the poly crisis. My overall umbrella thesis is that we need to put together all right, welcome Marco, who just jumped into our Zoom space here. He's another member of Set A. Those who understand and believe in the absolute necessity of Marine Cloud Brightening. So, but again, back to my overall umbrella thesis is that we need to, the various Delta Forces that I'm talking about, the 30 of them-ish, we need to put together a CHISI, a collective human superintelligence, with members of all of the 30 Delta Forces for the 30 mega solutions. And within that CHISI, which I talk about in other videos in this channel, just look up, just peruse through the videos and watch any or several of those pertaining to CHISI. So a crucial part of CHISI is the sum total of those 30 Delta Forces. And since each individual, such as myself, such as Marco, such as yourself, we have limited bandwidth, there's only so many things we can become, really well-versed in, steeped in. That's exactly why we need CHISI. We need myriad different groups, each one kind of mastering a given mega solution that's crucial. And, and then doing whatever is needed to help overcome all the barriers for humanity to grasp the the non-substitutability of those crucial mega solutions. And that's basically it. I just wanted to give that. I'm not going to make this video any longer. I'm just going to stop recording, and thank you all for listening. I hope that was useful. Feel free to comment and in the comments below, and I'll do my best to address questions or comments as they come in, perhaps with a lag. So please be patient. All right. Thanks everyone for watching and listening. All right. Love you all and see you soon. Thanks. Thanks, Marco.